yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again behind the, I mean, not just behind the wheel, actually on stream today. And we have the Cypher Unlimited crew as usual, -1, no Dean today unfortunately, but we have the ever lovely Spiggs 18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch, subscribe to us over on YouTube, and be sure to check out the Anywhere door on Moonbeam. There's a new streaming platform that Monte Cook Games is trying to get. They partnered with, and they have their own realm, is what it's called. And Monte Cook Games is trying to collect as many Cypher creators on there as streamers as they can, content creators. So there's quite a few people on there, and we are currently streaming on there as well. So hello everyone over at Moonbeam. I think that's everything. Oh no, one other thing. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the Cypher Unlimited Discord if you are interested in running a game for CypherCon. There's about a week left in signups, and if you haven't signed up yet, there's plenty of games left and available, I should say. And yeah, if you were interested, now's the time to do it. We got about a week left to sign up. And without further ado,
Eric.
Anthony, what are we doing here tonight?
No, I want to pick. Yeah, Eric, I know you're in chat. Go sign up for a game at CypherCon, dude. Just pick one game, anything, run something. Sign up for a game at CypherCon. I want to bust his chops while he's in chat.
Oh, and
you know, Eric's what, a 3 or 4 time INGM winner. The least he could do is, grace us with his presence with one game.
For real though, it would be nice, and definitely it would fill fast. I know a lot of people like Eric's work, and I've seen him GM and stuff, and I think Eric's game would fill pretty quick.
Oh, so today was actually pretty cool because when I was thinking of ideas for today's stream, I realized that I played a more than average amount of games that I normally do in the last 2 weeks. Like God shined on me the last 2 weeks, allowed me to play like 3 or 4 games. Actually, I played 5 games in the last 2 weeks. And I started off by playing Daggerheart with Ked Help on his server, and we'll get into that. I guess we'll talk about that first. But I played Tiny Dungeon as well. I played that in person, which was hella cool. Al, you know that they opened up. Just on a side note, we're gonna go on a lot of tangents today, guys. But Eric, Al, they opened up a board game store in Queens.
What?
Yeah, that's how I played Tiny Dungeon. I'm in that Facebook group, like the New York Gamers Facebook group.
Yeah.
And most of the stores are Brooklyn based. But they actually opened up a board game store in Elmhurst.
That's surprising.
And I saw somebody posted, "Hey, I'm running Tiny Dungeon like 12 o'clock on a Thursday or whatever it was," and I signed up for it and played that. So I'll talk about my experience with that. That was hella cool, right? Then I got to play 6-Gun Doomsday with Jason C. Shadomain. That's his project that I believe it goes on Back a Kid next week or the week after, but I got to play test that, which was hella cool. And I got to run my CypherCon adventure. I got to play test my CypherCon adventure, and I realized I had a boatload of technical mistakes that I had to correct. But yeah, I got to play a bunch of games. But the first part of this chat is I want to look at Daggerheart. Oh, go ahead.
Just before you dive into Daggerheart, because I know we're gonna touch on these things and then have tangents and whatnot. But I will say this before you dive in and get the ball rolling on that. You've played more games in the past 2 weeks than I've probably played in the past 2 years. Like, again, I always like to be transparent about everything. You guys know I probably play the least amount among everyone. I
call BS on that. I call BS.
No.
In the past 2 years,
so if you count Ked Hub's game campaign, like I count that as one game. Like in my mind, that was one game because it was like a campaign. That was one game in my mind. Even though we did like 8, 9, 7, I forget how many sessions. It was 12. There we go, 12. I in my mind that was one game. Like we played one game.
You know why? You know why I call BS on that, Al? We've streamed more than 4 actual plays in the last 2 years. So that right there eliminates you from that statement.
Was I involved in every actual play? That's the other question.
Pretty much. Unless your doppelganger was there, I'm pretty sure you was.
I know I was involved in most of them. I'm pretty sure there was one or two that I did not participate in. But that's neither here nor there. You've definitely played way more games than I have in the past 2 years. I kind of like BS too.
Either way, it was that's the most games I played in a 2 week span in a long time too. You know, I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I have a wife, and we plan for CypherCon. I'm doing the CypherCon behind the work scenes, doing the Cypher Unlimited stuff. So we rarely get a chance. Somebody in chat and on the Discord today posted something that I 100% agree with. They posted that I talk about Cypher 90% more than I actually play. And I feel like I fall into that category as well. So yeah, we played a bunch of I got a chance to play a bunch of games. And part of it was that my wife went to my mother-in-law's house with the kids for a week. So it got, I had some, after work, I had spare time to play, like to actually go, okay. Matter of fact, the game with Jason was just me posting in chat, hey, I want to play something. Anybody could play something right now, and we got to, we got a 3-person group, and we, Jason was kind enough to, play test 6-gun Doomsday for me, which was hella fun. But let's start off with Daggerheart, right? Because Daggerheart was one last thing before I even go into the games. Monte just released another what you call it, design diary, Cypher Design Diaries today. And we're gonna end our show with that because I think it was unlike the first two, I think this was probably the most informative one that he's released so far. And I think there's some hidden gems in there that I want to chat about with. So we'll save that for last. But right now, let's talk about Daggerheart, right? I purchased the book, and I was really interested in seeing how it plays. Not that I'm a huge Critical Role fan, but I just like the concept of them branching out and doing something on their own, entirely. And I was extremely happy that when I actually got to look at the rule set, because I didn't read any of the play tests, I just waited till it was released, ordered it on Amazon, and then read it from there. So I was really happy that they moved away, as far away from 5e and from D20 base, generic fantasy as they possibly could. So I was extremely happy when KedHub said, hey, I'll run something for you. And then we grabbed 3 or 4 people from the CU Discord server. We transferred over to his personal server, and we got to sit down and play. It went through 2 sessions. The first session, we all met together and we did character creation together. And character creation was pretty smooth. I played like a clank, which is like their, like just a mechanical man, I guess. I played a clank. I want to say a clank guardian. Yeah, I think it was a clank guardian. So go ahead, Al.
No, I think this is a good place for a first question. Like, so you're saying clank guardian, right? So was that like a racial choice? Did they move away from like that ancestry racial thing? Like, is that just like a flavor? Like, and then the guardian, is that like a subtype? Like, what's all that about?
No, they have ancestries and types. So like a type would be like your class, so an ancestry would be like your race. So clank was my race and guardian was my type. And what I really liked about Daggerheart, right, or what I appreciated about Daggerheart in character creation, they had a lot of tools similar to Cypher, where they ask you questions and it helps you flesh out your character, right? They skill. I forgot the name of it because, like I said, I only played it once, and KedHub and chat can answer it better than I can. But they ask you these questions, and from those questions, you're either supposed to build a relationship with the other people creating characters, or it helps the GM build the overall narrative for the session or the adventure or whatever it is that you're doing. And then it has some very similar to Fate, where I think it's called experiences, and correct me if I'm wrong in chat, Cat Hub, but they're essentially like aspects in Fate where you get to like state something, right? And then you get an advantage on a roll whenever something, wherever that situation comes up. But it's like Cypher with its skills, that you don't have to use the examples that they give. So one of my experiences was, oh man, that looks broken, right? And so anytime something needed to be fixed, or if I had to fix something on myself, I could add something to my roll to improve that. So you didn't have to like follow the. Oh, go ahead, Al.
Quick question. So you said your experience was that looks broken. Was that literally verbatim what it was, or could it be something like? Because what I'm thinking in my head is very Cypher, like where you could say something. So I could be like, "Hey, so my guy, he came in first place in a loot like fiddle contest. So if he ever has to play the loot or whatever, he's super good at it." Like, okay.
No, it's exactly like Cypher.
Cool.
Like, like remember on Cypher we used to always say, like we always wanted to use the skill breaking shit, right? You could have that as your experience, exactly like Cypher. You could have it, phrase it whatever way you want to phrase it. So you can make it as vague or as narrow as you possibly can. Either it's totally up to you and totally up to the GM. And then Cat Hub is very much an improv GM, so he was basically cool with whatever we said. But so I like that aspect, and that reminded me of Cypher, right? The other major thing from Daggerheart is the duality dice, where essentially you're rolling 2d12, right? And you assign 1d12 to be your hope dice and 1d12 to be your fear dice, and you could fail with fear or succeed with hope. And all that meant was that when you rolled your dice, right, whatever the higher total on that die was whether you had hope or fear. And fear was a mechanic that the GM could use to create almost like GMIs. Matter of fact, in the book, they essentially said that was one of the aspects of, so the GM could interfere in an action or interrupt the scene by using a fear token. And every time you rolled, if you rolled with fear, you gave the GM a fear die. And if you rolled with hope, you in turn got a hope die. And you could use that for some abilities. You could use that to, re-rolls, I think it was. Those are like a bunch of other things that you could use hope for.
Does the GM have a cap on how many fear tokens they can hold, or is it just as long as the player gets a fear, they just gather as many fear tokens?
I'm not sure. I think there was a cap, but I don't think we got to that cap.
And then the other question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No. The backup question was, does the fear token stay assigned to the person who rolled it, or is it just a general fear token you can use on anyone now?
Yeah, you can use it on anyone. The GM gets the token, right? Also, the GM, like, there's no initiative in Daggerheart, right? So you basically keep on. So if the party goes first, right? And if we all keep on rolling with hope, we get to continuously keep on actions. So it makes combat a little different, right? Because if we roll with hope 3 or 4 times in a row, we just keep on going. And you decide amongst yourselves who does what. You could also, there's tag team rules. There's a bunch of stuff that, like I'm not an expert in. If you want to know the actual breakdown of the mechanics, I'll suggest you watch Ken Hub's video. I'm just talking about my personal experience playing the game, right? Right? But the minute you roll with fear, the GM takes over the narrative. So, which makes it interesting because say the first person goes, which happened to us like twice. Like somebody be like, oh, I want to go first. I'm going to do this cool thing. and they either fail or succeed with fear, it goes to the GM now. So now the other players have to wait because the GM had the fear. So now the GM could take over the narrative and control his characters in combat.
All right, so I need a little.
It's basically sharing the spotlight.
I mean, I get that part, but someone asked a question on Moonbeam Zalis. What forces / incentivizes players to roll with fear? And that got me thinking about my question was, so this fear and hope stuff, right?
You have no control over your roll because one die, like say I have 2 D12s, right? And say my white D12 is my hope die, my black D12 is my fear die. Every time you do an action, you rolling these 2 D12s, right? Whatever the higher number is, that's whatever you total them up, but whatever the higher number is, that determines whether you rolled with hope or fear.
Okay, all right, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so you roll both, and it's out of 24, or 2 to 24, because it's one. Yeah, and then if your fear dice is the higher number of the two, even if you succeed, there's a fear, and again, you could fail with a hope, right?
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it made combat easy. It made combat interesting because there was always that fear of, hey, I want to try this, but or what you call it, Gus played me, Gus, Charlie, right? Say Charlie's down, he's almost about to go down, and if I try this and get fear, is Ken Hub gonna hit Charlie again? And so there was always that fear of giving the agency back, giving the spotlight back to the GM.
That's definitely interesting. I could definitely see that's a lot of really fun push and pull, and you don't know exactly when your turn is going to be up, so it's important to pick who should be taking the action or whatever. I can see that definitely having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Jack's Runner's in chat. He also played. It was me, Charlie, Jack's Runner, and Gus. Neat. All right. So that was very interesting, and the fear mechanic it reminded me of GMIs from Cypher System. I don't know how to put it any other way. Pretty much, and the hope and fear mechanic reminded me of Fantasy Flight's Light Side and Dark Side. I don't know if you ever played any of the Star Wars games, but that was very reminiscent to that mechanic. The one thing I got, once again, I'm not an expert on the rules. I barely read the rules, to be 100% honest. But the one thing I got from it, and this might make some people upset, but I don't think there's nothing, absolutely nothing in Daggerheart that's original. And I don't mean it as an insult because it's far from it. What I think they did was they took a bunch of great ideas from a bunch of great games, Cypher System, Blades in the Dark, all these great games, and created their own system with it. So that's not an insult, but I don't really think it's very original in its, like any individual mechanic is original in that sense. But I think they created a great game by incorporating a bunch of mechanics from other games to create something new and different.
It definitely sounds pretty interesting, and I definitely need to play it sometime. Not run it. I will play it because I don't want to learn and read the book. I'll play it.
I definitely want to run it at least once.
So I'll play when you run it.
Yeah. And now to go into the stuff that I was a little leery about, right? And like the no initiative order, right? I found that if you have a certain type of player, I think it better suits the theater kid group. You know what I mean? Like the group that understands pacing, understands sharing the spotlight. And I think it's perfect for that group. But if you have some timid players or some overly aggressive players that constantly want to be in the spotlight, I could see issues coming up with that game because we weren't a timid group, right? And even us had some issues of, hey, wait a minute, you haven't gone yet. I went twice. You want to do something, So I can only imagine if you're playing with a group that only knows like D&D or only knows, you know what I mean, where they used to, they used to a specific order where, like having an initiative order where I go and then I, wait for my next turn. I could definitely see that coming up as being an issue. Our table, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it doesn't mean that I don't think that it would be a problem in some other tables.
No, it's just like what you were saying, and I think Jason just said
Yeah.
in the chat that have issues with players taking the spotlight or stealing it or having it for too long, right?
Yeah.
And I could definitely see that issue cropping up within Daggerheart, where it's like, hey, we keep rolling hope, so it's our turn. But the most aggressive person at the table is like, oh, that means I'm gonna take my action. Like I do the most damage. I'm gonna attack. Like I'm the barbarian. I'm gonna be in there swinging. Like you guys just wait. Like I could definitely see that issue cropping up, and it's a good thing that. And someone else said it. I'm blank on who. I don't want to scroll up. They said they feel like Cypher heads get more out of Daggerheart than D&D players because they understand that sharing of the spotlight and whatnot. Like, and that definitely is a huge benefit as a Cypher player going into this system. Yeah.
Matter of fact, before I even played with Cat Hub, Al, I'm a research junkie with like everything I do. I watched a ton of Daggerhearts. Matter of fact, I watched the Critical Role actual plays just so I wasn't like making a fool of myself, right? And the one thing I did notice, right, was that when I was watching videos of either like positive or negative reviews of it, it definitely came, like if I watch videos for someone that's traditionally a Fate player, right, or traditionally Powered by the Apocalypse player, or tradition, they were the ones like, oh, the initiative system's not an issue, we took to it, my group took to it immediately, we had a blast. And then I watched it from people like coming from Paizo channels or 5e channels. They had more of an issue with it initially, right? And it's like Dean said, shifting your thought process. Since we fall under the narrative side of things as Cypher players, it wasn't and our group consisted of 4 Cypher players, right? It wasn't a big issue for us, right? So that, that wasn't a problem, but I could definitely see it being an issue. And I watched a couple of actual plays of 5e players where it was visibly an issue in the actual plays.
What you call it? Zolas again on Moonbeam has another good question, which is something I didn't think about. Does everyone get one action per turn like Cypher System? What is the turn like economy, I guess? Like what can you do on your turn?
All right, and Ken Help could correct me better if I'm wrong, right? But I don't think there is like a one action per turn thing. You can move, do actions, but if you keep on rolling with hope, you could keep on doing stuff. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not like codified like it is in most games, right? How like a Cypher System, you could move, you could do an action, right? In D&D.
So I guess a better way to phrase the question would be, how much can you do up until you have to roll a dice, right? Like you can move, then like you can like take a free action, talk, attack somebody. Like can you do like when does I obviously know that when you go to attack somebody or you go to convince somebody of something, you roll dice, right? But like, can you walk as much as you want? Can you like pick up as many items as you want from the floor? Is that a free action? Like does your turn end when you actually go to roll with a fear? Or like, is there an extent of what you can do like for free? I'm assuming it's not really codified.
Yeah, I think it's more similar to like how you would have it in Fate, but think of it as scenes, right? Think of it as scenes in a movie or scenes in a, like some of the minor stuff that wouldn't necessarily affect it doesn't require a roll. I don't see a GM say, hey, wait a minute, stop. You did your move action, like. You know what I mean? So if it isn't in combat, it doesn't really affect. But trying to convince somebody of doing so. Same thing. View it as in Cypher terms, right? You know how we say you always have to roll if it directly affects someone or something that they don't want happen to them. I guess the same would apply in Daggerheart. You know what I mean? Like if you want to convince somebody, then you're definitely rolling, and then you're definitely giving the GM opportunity. But also remember that the GM also has the fear, right? So if the GM could still take over the narrative by spending one of his fear points.
Yeah, that makes sense. Zalas had a follow up with this, and I think I can actually answer this one. They said, no, I don't know what you mean. How do you share the spotlight if one person keeps rolling hope and is doing all the things? I assume once someone rolls hope and there's another turn, they discuss with the group, hey, who takes the next action, right? Like if someone rolls hope.
That's the problem that some people have and why I think can be concerning in Daggerheart is exactly that. It's not having those open conversations. They also have a mechanic that we only did once or twice, but they have like a team up mechanic where two people could combine their actions, right? And both people roll, and whoever rolls the highest is like the success, determines the success or failure of whatever action they're doing. So picture, like, I don't know if you watch X-Men, you know how Colossus will pick up Wolverine, spin him around and throw him at someone? You could essentially, they have a mechanic to do exactly that in Daggerheart, right? And both people roll, right? And whoever gets the highest of the two rolls determines whether we're going with that roll, right? Regardless if you got hope or fear. And then I believe, and I could be wrong, chat, correct me, I believe that both people's damage gets added to that. So like if I'm rolling 2d8 on my damage and a Gus is rolling 1d10, you roll both of those, add them together, and that's the damage you do for that.
Eric explained it, and I like this because it has a cost that you can't just spam this move. Yeah. So it's combo.
Oh, that's another thing too. Abilities cost hope, but you constantly get hope every time you roll.
Yeah, so you spend 3 hope, both players roll, take the highest. Damage is combined to go over threshold. I don't know what that exactly means, but it sounds like damage is put together.
Oh, that's another thing too. We're not gonna get. This isn't gonna be the full Daggerheart breakdown. But they have damage thresholds opposed to having like a set number of hit points. You know what I mean? So, like an average character might have, and armor works differently too. It just lowers the damage threshold. Like, so the most damage you could take, I believe, is like 3 or 4. But you have a threshold. Like, say your threshold is 10 and 14. Anything under 10, you take 1 point of 1 point of damage. Anything between the 10 and 14, you take 2 points of damage. Anything over that 14, you take 3 points of damage. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but once you sit down, that wasn't an issue at all. It was very easy. It makes math, it kind of eliminates the majority of the math. But here's the last thing before we go into Tiny Dungeon. When I first played it, I thought it was going to make combat way quicker, but I don't think that's the case now, which is weird because all the signs point to making combat a lot quicker. But when you get it in the table, maybe it was because all 4 of us were new, but it took a lot more of us. We had the analysis paralysis of who's going. You know what I mean? Like what I said about you having to have those discussions of who's going or you going. You haven't gone in a while. I'm self-conscious, so I'm going to let you go. So it was a lot more, which slowed combat down a little. Also, too, is that it's that threshold thing is us having to figure out, I take 2 points. I'm going to use an armor to reduce it by 1. So it's still math. It's lighter math, but there's still some sort of combat math. So it might not be Pathfinder slow, but it wasn't that much slower than 5e, in my opinion.
DM Jack said it in a good way, and it kind of goes in what you just said. It's like how
Mm,
task level and effort seems complicated in Cypher, and we do get that sometimes from new players. But it's
yeah,
smoother in practice. Like once you've done it a few times, like you just know
yeah.
how it works. Which again, that makes sense. I can see that.
But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, we had a blast. At the end of the day, Ken Hub did a great job. We had hella fun playing, and we got into like 2 or 3 combats. We fought some zombies. I almost died like twice, but I was the tanky character, so I was always in the middle of the fight. Right, so we had a ton of fun, and I'll definitely play it again, and I'll definitely run it again. And I also think that it's closer to Cypher than it is to 5e, if that makes any sense.
it sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it's much closer to that sort of mindset over the simulationist mindset, which I like. I like. Obviously, we're gonna like that here.
Yeah. But just 2 things that I didn't like, and I mentioned this to Cab, and I don't think he agreed with me, but like you choose an ancestry and you only get like 2 abilities with the ancestry. That's your race, right? And your race and your type gives you abilities. And another cool thing, everything's in cards, so you have everything in front of you. So once again, similar to Cypher System, but for player facing instead of GM facing. But player facing, you would get like the Cypher cards, like if we were playing in person.
I dig that.
But
Definitely nice.
you 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 only get 2 abilities for your race, which I thought was a little lackluster. And some of the races are just infinitely better than the other one. Like, I'm not gonna lie, any race that gives you flight is infinitely better than anything else. So that was just my personal opinion. I don't think Ken Hub agreed with me when I mentioned that before, but just personally, I'm not sure if it's a balancing issue, or I would have preferred if the ancestries had 3 or 4 abilities, or maybe 3 or 4 abilities and you choose uh, 2 abilities out of the card. Might have been a little bit better design, but it is what it is.
Ketup said 2 from race, 1 from community, plus class ability, plus subclass ability, plus 2 domain cards, all at first level. How many abilities do you want? I mean, that sounds like a good amount. Like, I don't know.
The heart wants what it wants, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, so tell me about Tiny Dungeon.
All right, Tiny Dungeon was an entirely different experience, right? Like I said, I was just open to anything, and I'm on the New York City Gamers Facebook group, right? And I saw somebody. First of all, I said, "Oh shit! They opened up a board game store, 3 stops on the train from my house. That's hella cool, right?" And then I was like, "Oh shit! They actually posted in-person games. That's hella cool, right?" Oh shit! Somebody's posted this game called Tiny Dungeon, which I've never played before. That's hella cool. So I messaged them. And I said, "Hey, I'm interested in playing." They were like, "Cool, it's Thursday, noon, or it was either Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. Thursday at noon, try to get here at 11:30. We're doing character creation. It's a super simple, fast game, easy to play." So I was like, cool. I showed up, right? The store is small as all hell, though. They literally have like 6 tables, if that, 5 or 6 tables. There was one other person playing like a solo card game, and us, and it was a husband and wife, and I want to say the other person was a relative of theirs, but they were. Janice was the GM. She was fantastic. She explained the rules to me, what little rules they are, and I think you're gonna love this system, Al. She explained the rules to me. They helped they walked me through step by step a character creation that literally took like 5 minutes. You could put your entire character on an index card, right? And we got to playing. We were playing the fantasy version. Tiny Dungeons is essentially it's a super rules light. it shares a lot of bones with Cypher System, as in the range distances are vague. Damage either does one or 2 points, right? Like a light weapon does 1 point, a heavy weapon does 2 points, right? The maximum most hit points you're gonna get as a character is 6, so it doesn't make a difference. And the basic has one conflict resolution mechanic. You essentially roll on a base roll, you roll 2d6s. Any 5 or 6 on your roll, you pass. Right? So 1 through 4 you fail, 5, 6 you pass. If you're trained in something or you have a boon in it, you roll 3d6s, so you have a better odds of getting a 5 or 6 on a roll. If you're hindered in something, I don't think it was called hindered, but whatever it was called, you roll 1d6.
That's brutal.
That is the entire math mechanic and the entire game. So if you're looking for super crunch, this might not be the system for you. But so you pick a race, and surprisingly, for a rule, it reminded me of Lasers and Feelings, to be honest. Lasers and Feelings with rules, right? You pick an ancestry, which surprisingly for a rules-like system, they had a lot. There was like 8 to 10 different ancestries. I was a goblin spellcaster. I was actually a goblin scroll caster. That meant that I could only cast spells through scroll. And I had 2. I had a fireball and a sleep spell. And once magic works exactly like hitting someone, you roll. Since I was trained in it, I got to roll 3d6s. If I had a 5 or a 6 in any of the die, that means I succeeded automatically. And if I had if I didn't have then I failed. But it used the same mechanic for everything. So it made it super simple. It was hella fun, right? After the session, we played for like 4 hours. We had a lot of fun. Like I said, Janice, if you're watching this, I told her about Cypher Unlimited. If you're watching this, you are a phenomenal GM. I would love to play with you, and I promise to run them in Cypher if they ever join the Discord. But I'll definitely return the favor and run you in Cypher. But you are a fantastic GM, right? We had hella fun, and it was surprisingly. It surprised me how much you could do with such a simple mechanic, right? All the rules were basically pass-fail. Like there was no gradients to like whatever you did. It's either pass-fail. But it reminded me of, I was like, yo, I would really love this game because I know you loved Laces and Feelings, right? And I purchased the book after the game, right? I'm actually still waiting on the physical copy, right? But what reminded me so much of this system to Cypher is they basically follow the same exact philosophy, right? It has a super simple rule set, and then they have genre books. So you have tiny supers, tiny apocalypse, tiny, right? And they just give you like the back of like the tiny dungeon gives you like 13 or 14 different variations of a fantasy game and how to run it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you're running Sword and Sandals, try incorporating this like optional rule. If you're running high fantasy, try incorporating this optional rule. So it was very much in the same design philosophy as Cypher System. So I really appreciated that. And the other reason why I really like Cypher System is, I have twin 8-year-old boys. One of my sons is on the spectrum, and I wanted a game that I could sit down and just do a quick game with both of them, where Ethan would feel like he was actually like enjoying it and able to. He has focus issues, so he was able to, hey, just roll these D6 and tell me if you get a 5 or a 6, right? And I love No Thank You Evil, but No Thank You Evil worked with Molly when she was younger, right? But for the boys, they just never gravitated towards it. I think it was because it's too cutesy, right? So it wasn't like so neither one of them really like took to it like my daughter did.
That's kind of funny. I never thought about that, like introducing No Thank You as like
Yeah,
to a boy versus a girl, like, or someone who likes
yeah.
whatever. But that's kind of hilarious. But yeah, Tiny Dungeon does sound awesome for them though.
Yeah, and Ethan is very much. Ethan is weird because he's very much into high fantasy, like from video games like Zelda. You know, so when I would, it was just he just has issues with like figuring out mechanics and remembering mechanics. I think with this just rule set, I think it's going to be way easier. Matter of fact, I actually played like a mini session without the rules, just using that core mechanic, and it went great. We played for like an hour, and they actually loved. They both loved it. Aiden will play anything. Like Aiden's just a happy-go-lucky kid. He'll definitely play anything. But I think Ethan really liked just hey, did you get a 5 or a 6? You succeed. You didn't get a 5 or a 6? Oh, you failed. And with the low hit points and stuff, the math it just went really well. I really liked it, and I went to the rabbit hole of, oh hey, let me look at simple RPGs, and then Charlie told me about a couple. He told me about I think it was Easy D6, and he told me about Tricube Tales, which is another one. Tricube Tales is actually like $5 on Drive-Thru.
I actually own that one. I actually have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was either Charlie or James who recommended it to me.
Yeah. So I haven't got to play or read either one of those, but I'm definitely going to order those as well.
Yeah, I definitely need to pick up any of the Tiny books, I guess, because you're saying that they're Tiny books, right?
As a negative on Tiny Dungeon, though, I'm gonna say this: yo, for a game that has like 12 or 13 pages of rules, they want like $30 for the book, like the physical book.
Wait, for just
That's kind of
one little, like, how many pages is the full book?
No, the book is like 120 pages because they have a lot of fluff. Like the book has like the monster manual in there. It has like 20 pages of like micro settings. But for when I think of a light RPG, like the Fates, the even what you call it, the Tricube Tales, right? Like they all like within the $9 to $12 range. Tiny Dungeon, everything is in like the Tiny Dungeon Supers, right? It's like $35 on Drive-Thru. I'm like, God damn, this is supposed to be a rules light system. Why is it so much money?
The only thing I can say is I would have to see it myself before I make that judgment. Maybe there's crazy art in it. Maybe like I don't know. Like,
yeah, I've never actually seen the physical products. I couldn't tell you. Even when I went to play, she was running off of the PDF on her iPad, so I never seen. Yeah, like Jason said, it's definitely not wallet light. I just thought that was weird. And maybe I'm not in the indie light game scene thinking that might be normal, but for the other games, I didn't think that was normal. And then I looked at Easy Dungeon and I looked at Tricube Tales. Both of them are under $20, so I didn't understand how
I mean, the only thing I can say in that regard is, again, you said it's like 100, 120 pages. Like Tricube Tales is like 60.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at my other smaller ones. They're tiny. And it depends.
Yeah.
Is it a hardcover? Is it like a A4? Is it a square book? Like what? There's a bunch of things that go into that pricing factor.
It's the size of the any of the Powered by the Apocalypse books, like Blades, the size of Fate.
Okay, so the smaller one. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like the Mercboard's the size, like A4.
Yeah.
A5, I think actually A5, whatever, this tiny, smaller.
Yeah, but how much is Morkborg? Morkborg is $20, right?
No, Morkborg is $30, I believe. Does it have the price on here? No, it does not. But I think it's either 25 or 30, and this is I forget how many pages are in this book. Like 100 something. There are not page numbers in the adventure section.
I thought I paid $20 for Morkborg.
Maybe it is 20. I don't know.
I bought Morkborg at a con though. I think I bought it at game hole.
So it's like 80 pages, like 82 pages.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No, it's definitely more than 82 pages. It's definitely more than 82.
what it's numbered up to 70 something, and then the adventure is like 10 pages. I don't know. That's what I'm looking at. Unless this is more than 10 pages, and I'm doing a rough count badly.
Jason E6 is 125 pages, $25 for the hardcover and PDF. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like
Tiny
more like what
Dungeon?
Tiny Dungeon should be like, though. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Tiny Dungeon is like $30-something for the hardcover and the PDF. Like $39 or something like that.
I definitely want to pick up the PDF at some point.
Either way, I'm what you call it, picking them up. I'm just saying that I just thought the price was a little bit weird. But out of those three like light systems, the reason why I like Tiny Dungeon the most is because it was easier for me to pick up, and because they essentially use the same exact philosophy the MCG uses with, hey, here's the basic rules. You want whatever genre you want, we have a book for it, and it gives you the optional rules to add to this system to do whatever genre you want. And, you know, as Cypher heads, that's a concept that we automatically know, so it's pick up and play for us.
Definitely want to pick up a couple of them.
Yeah, the game I played it's so simple. It reminded me of Lasers and Feelings with a fleshed out Lasers and Feelings.
Oh, Starheart asked, do you know if it was, or did you play 1E or 2E?
2E.
Okay.
2E.
Neat.
And they also had a funny thing. Another cool thing is, I went through that rabbit hole of researching. When I went to the website and I went to, looked at everything on Drive. First of all, it supported up the wazoo. There's mad people creating content for it. Like there's mad, independent designers designing for it. I guess it has an open license. But someone created, it might be official actually. They made an advanced Tiny Dungeon, and they used the same font lettering as Advanced AD&D, so I thought that was cool. And they added a bunch of crunch to, a bunch of crunch that isn't in the core set to give it like that AD&D feel. So eventually I'm gonna pick that up. But that was $49 on Drive-Thru, which I thought was ridiculous.
Like physical copy?
Yeah, I almost pooped my pants. That was like a 5e book.
It sounds like a whole. I mean, it sounds like a whole ass book if they're adding that much depth. And I'm assuming they expand the monster section, they expand the GM suggestion section. I mean, that might be warranted. Again, I don't know how many pages and whatnot, but I definitely want to check those out at some point because they definitely do sound like right up my alley. Because I miss Lasers and Feelings. And Lasers and Feelings with a little bit more to it sounds awesome. You know what I mean? Like a little more meat on the bone. Sounds fantastic.
That's the feeling I got. It was Lasers and Feelings with a little more to it. You know what I mean?
Definitely sounds awesome.
So that was Tiny Dungeon. And Tiny Dungeon just reminded me of Cypher. I don't know why. Maybe the way it's organized, the way damage is, is a static number. Maybe the ranges are, vague enough, like what you call it, short, far away, right? It just seemed like they took a lot of the site and a Tiny Dungeon isn't that old. I think it's 2018 or 2017. So Numenera was definitely out before that. So I definitely think they were inspired by Cypher somehow. So that made me love it even more when I saw, I went to the rabbit hole and said, oh, they running things exactly like Cypher does. So I would recommend at least playing Tiny Dungeon. And I'm definitely going to pick it up, and we'll definitely got to play. Right? And then I got to play a game with Shadomain, Jason C. We got to play test 6-gun Doomsday, which is Cypher System. So, that's in our wheelhouse. And like I said, that game happened spur of the moment. I literally just posted in chat, hey, I got some free time. Everybody want to play? And Jason was gracious enough to run that. We had 3 players. It was me, Crazy Weasel, and I cannot I don't remember. Maybe Devin could share a chat who was the third person. I can't remember the name right. And I'm sorry for forgetting your name, but I can't remember the name right now. But it was fantastic, and it was It's basically how would I describe this? Supernatural cowboys. Magnificent Seven meets Cthulhu. You know what I mean? It was awesome. And he has a really cool. I want to discuss this. He has a really cool gunfight mechanic where two people could have a gunfight, and there's actually cipher rules that actually allows you to do the process. And what I really liked about it, even though it's only one person involved in it, is that it's so quick and easy that it does. And I told this to Jason after the playtest. It didn't feel, I'm always leery about mechanics, right? That shares the spotlight with one person for a specific period of time when they're doing a specific thing. Because a lot of times those mechanics could be tedious. It takes 15 to 20 minutes where everyone else is just sitting back and watching one player do their thing for 20 minutes. But the way he has his mechanics set up, it goes so fast that me and Devin were just cheering this person on, and then we immediately went into the action. So I really love the way Jason did that. That was really cool, right? Jason, when is that dropping on the backer kit?
Yeah, if you have a link for like the like for signing up to be notified or whatever, drop that in the chat, and then we'll add it to the YouTube.
Yeah, and we'll definitely add it on August 5th is dropping.
And Aqua SP was the other player in that game.
Oh, okay. So it
know.
was great. It was great, and I played like a guy that only used knives, and he was impulsive. So I was like the idiot of the group, and then Devin was like, "Oh, I'm playing a character that's he's just gonna do what any other person in the party says." And then he chose me for some odd reason to be the person to follow. And I was like, "You're following the impulsive idiot." You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to end well. So we had some shenanigans where I was doing dumb shit and then Devin was following me. You know what I mean?
I need to find the image. I don't mean to interrupt your story, but there's a meme about a D&D party, but TTRPG party. It's four players. First guy's a knight, this noble person who's trying to, kill the existential threat of the that's threatening their town, whatever. Right? Second one, idiot, just idiot. Third one, manipulator, and then fourth one, smaller idiot. So you guys were idiot and smaller idiot.
Yeah. But it was a hell of fun, and I like the way my character he had custom foci, custom types, custom flavors as well. So it was everything was like new to us, but it was very simple. We also had an NPC in the adventure. I don't know if this is part of the design, but the design for the adventure, we were traveling with this NPC that who had abilities that we were able to decide, which was really cool too. So yeah, I had a blast playing that, and we did the whole thing in like 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. We went through the whole adventure. And it was hella fun. I think we all had a great time.
That is the sweet spot of time.
NPC is all part of,
3 hours.
So yeah, that was it. And then my last thing that I want to talk about is that I play tested Children Should Play with Dead Things. This is a game that you actually played, but you played the Gods of the Fall version. This has been converted.
Old version.
Yeah.
From like 10 years ago version. Like.
Yeah. So I actually fleshed that out, and we played. I converted it to God Forsaken and Stay Alive for CypherCon, and I think it went well. The players seemed to have a good time. We had a fun story. Devin was in that game. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that you mentioned it was a lot of fun, but you felt like there was some things you could change. Like what fell flat? Like what happened?
I had a bunch of technical issues, as in like not having thing on the character sheet, not having tokens for the characters, which, and I was talking to Jason offline about this, right? I forgot, we were talking to somebody, I think we were talking to Malfectus, and no, me and Aloof Poof were talking to Malfectus on the server about running a game in 3.5 hours. And the same advice I was giving him about cutting corners to, eliminate anything that's going to eat extra seconds and minutes off your game so you could concentrate the majority of your time in story, in game, were the same mistakes that I actually had in game. Even though we did run it in about 4 hours or 3 hours and 45 minutes, were the same mistakes. I wasn't following my own advice. You know what I mean? So the same thing, same advice I was giving my Malfectus about, hey, yo, dude, you gotta have everything tight because you only got 3.5 hours. I was making those mistakes, but mine were more technical mistakes. They weren't narrative mistakes. I feel like I hit all my beats and all my scenes. I'm usually good with my pacing.
Yeah,
right? I think I hit all my beats and my scenes, but I didn't have my character sheets prepped well enough, and I didn't have the tokens. So when we did go onto a map, when you only have 3.5 hours, you should have all that shit prepped, right? Because, especially in a con structure, you want to make it as easy as possible for the players, especially at CypherCon, where I'm assuming, and this could be wrong, but I'm assuming that everybody's going to get at least 1 or 2 players that's never played the Cypher system. Oh, that's the assumption I go into in every CypherCon. Like, I don't assume that I'm going to get a group of 5 of experienced Cypher players. I'm assuming that two out of those 5 never played Cypher before. So you got to make it as easy for them as possible. And I didn't follow those guidelines.
Said in the chat, and I was just responding to it with text, but I guess I'll just verbally say it. DM Jack said, when I have a 3-hour limit, I make sure the beginning and ending are solid, but the middle needs an emergency release that can boot you to the ending if you start to run out of time. I know you didn't say that you had any narrative issues, but that's good to keep in mind for people like me who tend to over tell a story. You know what I mean?
I've mentioned this in multiple videos, but this is when I design an adventure for any convention, right? I use the 4-scene method, right? I design an intro scene, I design an ending scene, I design a bridge scene in between, which usually is, tug at the heartstrings, give the players time to dialogue, to, introduce NPCs, whether it's funny, serious. And then I design a 4th scene to keep in my back pocket if we're running short on time, that I can insert, right? Those are the only 4 scenes I designed always. I have 3 scenes that I expect to have in the 3.5 hour, 4 hour frame, and 1 scene for my back pocket. I've been doing that for 20 years now, and it seems to always work for me. So no, we did not do. The chat is asking about the
diary. I responded. But what I'll say before I guess this is a good segue. I guess the person asking about is a good segue. Before we go into it, I guess what I'll say is I struggle with, I always have a strong beginning and a strong ending, but somewhere in the middle I let the players do too much, if that makes sense. I get a little too liberal with what I allow them to do, and that generally extends things. And I definitely need to get better at that.
No, you know what you do? You have that 1 hour shopping scene.
You mention that every time I talk about running a game. I have not done that in years because of you. Literal years it's been since I've done something like that. You bring it up every time. Oh shit. But I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. Only if it's warranted.
Right? Yeah. No, I mean, you can do that in a home game. But con GMing is an entirely different beast. It's we were having this discussion, and I think that when you GM for a con, like I know some people hate the word railroad, like it's like it's a 4-letter word, right? But you have to have some sort of rails in a con game because the players need some sort of conclusion to your story, right? If you don't have any rails, like you're just gonna get a unsatisfactory adventure at the end. So you have to have some sort of rails. You have to prep your final scene and have it end on some. It could be a cliffhanger, but at least it feels like an ending. You know what I mean?
What I was gonna say is, and yeah, 100% right on that. But the way I like to describe it, because again, people don't like that term railroad, right? So we call it a roller coaster that has a track you can switch in the middle, right? In the middle, at some point, you have to pull that lever to switch the track. So it's a railroad, but you're kind of deciding between a couple of rails if you're doing it right. You know what I mean, right? So it is a railroad, but it's a roller coaster that you can switch tracks on. Ooh, but yeah, let's dive. What?
I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, though, I think that my CypherCon adventure is ready. I think Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things is absolutely 100% ready now. I think everyone had fun when I play tested it. I know I did. So if you want to play a horror, traditional fantasy, and I have pretty much every basic type. I have a druid, and I use race I'm a race separate from descriptor. So I have every major trope in the fantasy, traditional fantasy. Sign up for it. Children should play with Dead Things. You can play with me. I think I'm running it twice during the con. Yeah, I think it's a fun adventure. So once the player signups go up on August, when is it? The 17th of this month or the 18th of this month? It goes live. If you want to play with me, sign up for my game.
Yep, I believe you mentioned to me it was the 17th. Well, we can look that up, but pretty sure it was the 17th. Yeah. So Neural Lantern, I just asked that. So awesome. I'm definitely, and for anyone who's seeing Anthony's game, it's a great game. Like, it's a fantastic. I haven't seen the Godforsaken version, obviously, but when he ran it for Gods of the Fall, way back when, it was amazing, and I can imagine it's only gotten better since then. Definitely sign up to play it.
All original creatures. I designed everything myself. So, and the Bunny Man's still in it, Al. So,
oh boy. Scary stuff in there. Yeah. Oh boy.
Last but not least, for if anyone hasn't noticed, Monte Cook released a Cypher Design Diary today, and I think it's very interesting to say the least. So, like always, whenever we discuss an article that comes out for MCG, we read the entire article on stream with the chat so we could, speculate. I know Dean said in our last video he's tired of the speculation. I am not. Let's speculate. That's the fun part of being a fan of any fandom, is speculating on shit and getting stuff right and wrong. I'm here for all the speculation. I'm here to make the horrible, wrong predictions. I'm here to be right about something minor and constantly throw it in your face for 2 months. I'm here for all of it. So, Al, you want to read the article?
I'll definitely read it. It's definitely an interesting one. But let's go ahead and take it away here. This was released, I think, like 8 hours ago or something, like 9 hours ago. Like just was released today. And again, just read the whole thing. The title is Cypher Design Diary: What's in a Genre. This is released today, written by Monte Cook himself. It was an article on the Cypher System website, the Monte Cook Games website, and let me link that real fast. There you go. You can check it out yourself firsthand. But let me go ahead and read that. It's not a super long one, so let's just get through it. But yeah, it's just the gist is Monty's going to talking about the changes he's making in these series of diaries, and this one's about genre. All right, let me take the glasses off so I can read it better. One of the hallmarks of the Cypher system is how we designed it to work with almost any genre. As you might imagine, this is its own unique design challenge. Not only do different genres have different needs, but with a multi-genre system like this, you ideally want the freedom to mix them up. Your wizard can stand side by side with a power-armored warrior, and it just works. One of the underrated aspects of such a system is how easily it works with superheroes, where wizards and guys in powered armor work together all the time. It's no big deal. From a design point of view, that means you have to ask questions you don't have to in other games. Is a magic fireball just a grenade with a different set dressing? Is it different when two knights hit each other with swords than when two robots slice at each other with laser axes? Does piloting a hovercraft need to be different mechanically than driving a car? These are fun questions These are fun questions, but that doesn't make them superficial. They're important. While the Cypher System rulebook covers a lot of different genres, we've also done a lot of work on genre-focused Cypher System books, like Stay Alive for horror, Godforsaken for fantasy, and Neon Rain for cyberpunk. As we move forward into Cypher's future, we don't want to undo any of that work. We're lazy that way. Still, all this additional work has taught us a lot about dealing with different genres and settings, and we don't want to pretend that it didn't. First and foremost, we've learned that, as it stands, jumping into a fresh one-shot adventure or campaign is slower than I'd like. As I mentioned last week, Cypher was designed to be more of a game-creating toolbook than a complete game, and that can be less than ideal at times. Genre, I believe, is the answer to that problem. Rather than just having core character types that can be molded and modified to fit any genre, we've determined that it's much easier and a more fun experience, not to mention faster, if those types are just designed for a specific genre. This means that rather than taking an adept and making a lot of choices to make it into a wizard you want to play, you can just play the wizard type we've designed for you. This new approach doesn't require a player or GM to choose abilities and whatnot to reflect the desired spellcaster. It instead asks you to choose from a wide variety of pre-made options like the wizard, the sorcerer, the witch, the mage, and so on. You still have a lot of choice with many customization opportunities if you want them. We've also embraced the idea of subgenres in a big way. While the mage or a necromancer might be better suited to your dungeon fantasy game, the wizard might be more appropriate for an epic fantasy a la Talkin or King Arthur. A Conan-style sword and sorcery game might work best with a witch or a sorcerer. Of course, because all the types are compatible with each other, you can just choose whichever you want. Likewise, this means that we don't just have science fiction options, but hard sci-fi, space opera, cyberpunk, and post-apocalyptic choices for you. And of course, there's modern real-world options, superhero, and more. One of the reasons that this new way of looking at types works so well is that these choices are simplified and streamlined, meaning each option takes a lot less space in the book than types that cover every conceivable campaign imaginable. This, in turn, makes them less complicated and intimidating to jump into. By digging deeper into these different genres, it's a lot easier to have the game you most want to play. Flavor is so important to really enjoy a game. Period. It's true. While some people are fine with a general fantasy game, others want to embrace the difference between Conan and Aragorn, for example. Sure, superficially they're both guys with swords, but the things they can do, the companions they travel with, and the challenges they face are actually quite different. Last but not least, what do we think? I'm reading Anthony's line like it was part of the article. That was actually the end of the article. Oh, I should have put a dividing vertical line there or horizontal line. But yeah, that was the article.
I should have made it too slow. First of all, I took two major things, chat, from this article. First of all, you know how everybody on social media and on Facebook and some people in our chat were like, yo, I'm tired of them not releasing any information. I think they released a hell of a lot of information on this article. There's two major things I took from this that once it's my speculation, but there's two major things that I took that I think Monty's basically telling you what he's gonna do, right? The first thing I took is that you're gonna get, for each genre, you're gonna get a genre specific type for each. So if you're running fantasy, this is a wizard, this is what you pick from. This is a barbarian, this is what you pick from. But they're gonna do it for each genre that they have covered in the book, right? So it's gonna make character creation super easy. And let me just tell you my second one. And chat, tell me, this is 100% speculation. But you know what I think? I think there's going to be 2 books. I think we're going to get a player book, and I think we're going to get a GM.
Why do you say that?
I think I'm either going to look like a total asshole, a total jackass, or a freaking genius. Hold on, let me find it, because there's a specific phrase that Monty uses.
Right, while you look that up, while you figure out what the verbiage was, what Neurolancer said, where was it? Here we go. I'm not sure about this change. Cypher was great because of the generic archetypes, but sometimes I did feel hamstrung. I'm conflicted. So what the cool thing is here, and again, this is all speculation. I'm basing it what I just read, right? They're gonna give us preset types, right? Like very defined, you get a wizard, you get a necromancer, you get a mystic, whatever, right? They're gonna have very defined ability lists, right? And that's fine, that's awesome, right? But then you can go back to the original Cypher mindset where it's, hey, I actually don't like this ability for the mystic. I'm gonna switch that out for this other ability, and you can kind of customize it that way. If it's not specifically what you have in mind, I'm assuming, again, speculation, there's going to be guidance, because he mentions it in this article too, that there's going to be customization, you'll be able to customize this preset type to fit your needs even better. If you feel like, let's say, the necromancer isn't necromancy in the way you want it to be, you'll be able to switch out an ability or two or whatever to make it more fit that feel.
I still think you're gonna get the adept. You're gonna have the 4 basic core types, but I think on each genre they're gonna say, "Hey, this is what a sorcerer looks like." It's still gonna start base adept.
Nah, but from the wording on this, I don't think we're gonna see that at all anymore. There's no more adept. There's no more warrior. There's no more generic archetypes. I'm again speculation, because the way it's phrased here is they want to move away from that, right? So they'll have it set up in this specific way, right? With the the wizard, the necromancer, the mystic, whatever, right? And then there will be guidance on how to adjust those. I think the generic, like the 4 types we know and love, they're gone. Not to say that we won't see them like within, the barbarian or the necromancer or whatever, right? Those abilities are still going to exist. But I think them as the base archetype is just done. Like that's not going to exist anymore. We're going to get guidance on how to adjust.
The only reason why I'm a little leery on that, and I think what you're saying makes the most sense, Al. I'm definitely agreeing with you. But the only reason why I'm a little leery on that is because they still keep on saying that it's going to be 95% backwards compatible. And how backwards compatible are we going to be if we were moving those 4 types?
100%, because the abilities work exactly the same. The characters are not going to have any like, again, the only discrepancy I could see happening is if these thank you, Mike, so much for those gift subs. I don't know how many you just gifted. Was it 5? Thank you. So you're amazing. Bless your heart. You're the best. But what I was saying was, again, if it's the necromancer in the new book or the wizard or whatever, it's going to have the same number of abilities about. Roughly, it's not going to be exactly the same. So, like, let's say in the new book, a tier 6 wizard is going to have 6, 7 abilities, and just like the Cypher system that we know and love, adept at tier 6 is going to end up with 6 adept abilities, or whatever the number is. There's assume 1 per tier, right? 6, 8, whatever the number is. I know you get like 2 or 3, whatever per, but I feel like they're going to design it in such a way that these predetermined types are going to have about the same number of abilities as the ones we're used to.
Yeah, I think you're almost 90% probably right, because he does say we're going to fully embrace the idea of subgenres in a big way. So that's basically, but that's also another reason why I believe that it's going to be 2 books, because if I think character creation is going to have its own book.
Well, you looked at the article. What was the wording?
Yeah. Hold on, I gotta find. But it's a specific. I started jumping in the car. It's a specific sentence. When I read it at work, I was like, "Yo, this is 2 books."
All right, let me look too. Damn it, because when I'm reading it, I don't fully digest it because I'm focusing on the reading part.
I should have highlighted that part. Let me see.
You should have, bro. The only thing I can see here is it says this new approach doesn't require a player or GM to choose abilities and whatnot, meaning the player will be looking at the book, but they already look at the book, you know. I'll let you look it up, but I'm pretty excited for this, right? Like, look for it while I rattle off some shit here. I'm pretty excited for this, and again, I don't think it was fully needed, just for like my own take, right? I don't, because the way Cypherheads are, and I guess Neurolancer explained it best earlier, where the archetypes felt good enough to work with and easy enough to work with that, like, I could design a wizard, I could design a necromancer, like, it was fine, right? That was part of the game for me, right? Or, you know, part of the game as the GM, as a player even, like, part of the game was designing that wizard, that necromancer, exactly how I saw fit, right? But with this new version, right, that's going to be kind of pre-made already, right? So you don't have to do as much legwork to start, right? And then you say, hey, I want to play a wizard. You pick the wizard out the new book, right? And you say, actually, I want to be like specifically a lightning wizard, right? And again, I don't know how the wizard spells are going to look or whatever, but imagine you have some fire abilities. You say, hey, I want to swap that fire one for a lightning one. And that's kind of how you would end up customizing it in the new books or new book, whatever. Like, it's very interesting. I think again, what they're aiming for is overall good. Like, I would say a net positive, right? Because a lot of people, that is a struggling point for a lot of people, is they go into the game with just the Cypher core book and they're like, hey, how do I build a necromancer? How do I build a witch hunter, right? Like, what specific abilities would be good for that? And again, you know me, you know most Cypherheads. Oh, okay, I'm gonna stop so you can.
You didn't read this part, but and thank you, chat, for posting. It says second to the last paragraph. Of course, if the GM has some really weird ideas for the setting, things that don't fit into a standard genre or subgenre, they can still customize everything, just like they can for Cypher System now. But the info will be presented in a user-friendly way for GM's eyes only. That means there's going to be a separate book for GMs. Bank it. I'm saying it. Because
wait. That, I skipped it, but I don't see that in our notes. Did you just not copy paste that part?
Yeah, I probably not copy pasted it.
Okay.
So that right there is telling you, because you can't have a book, like a book that you sell, go, hey, if you're a player, don't read this section. It's gonna have to be 2 books, guys.
All right, I'm on board with that now. I can definitely see that. It's kind of hard to say otherwise, like, when it's saying like GM eyes only, like, that very much hints to a thing that only GMs are going to be looking at. And, you know, historically, they tell you, you know, with the Cypher book, they say, hey, GM and players are going to be looking at this. They never specified in the past that the Cypher core book was like, you know, this section was GM eyes only, you know, like, it was never specified that way.
and if we think about this logically, if they adding all this extra page count on each individual genre, adding all these subtypes for and subtypes for subgenres, that's going to increase the page count of the book, right? They're going to have to split it in 2 books.
Makes 100% sense now that you say both those points together. Like, because again, a big book, not outside the wheelhouse. Tolus is fucking how big? Like, they could fit a bunch of shit in one book if they really wanted to. But the fact that they specified GMIs only, that is a really, really specific phrase. Yeah.
I don't want to hear anything for the next 2 days. Hey, they're not giving us any information. There's a ton of information in this. I mean, we might not be right, but it's a ton of information for us to speculate on.
If you're an It's Always Sunny fan, it's the implication.
Yeah,
it's the implication.
And like I said earlier, I'm all about the speculation,
and I'm all about the implications. Okay. Oh my god, that's so stupid. Oh shit. But yes, it's quite exciting, yes. Oh shit. Woo boy.
Yeah, what do you guys think? You think it's 2 books? You think we're gonna get a players book? How about you think they're gonna have a Holy Trinity released at the same time?
Oh, Neurolancer and Aloof said something interesting. Well, Neuro something interesting, Aloof something funny. Neuro said maybe a big book and a GMI's only supplement. I could see that actually, but seeing how like Monte Cook is how they are, like I don't think they would give us like cause again look at Numenera. Like we got a box set for that, like 2 books. It's 2 nice hardcovers. It's nice, right? If they're giving us a multi-book thing, I feel like it's gonna be like that too, like a nice hardcover set in a little like dust sheet or whatever, dust case. Again, it's all speculation. But I could see it also that way, where they have a thick ass book and then like a thinner part that goes in the dust jacket, like that's the GM pamphlet. Yeah. Like I could see that too. That definitely could be a thing.
Yeah, but I definitely one thing MCG doesn't skimp on giving you high quality items. Like they've never done that. You don't get anything cheap from MCG, like quality wise whatsoever. So if they do in 2 books, there's definitely going to be a slip case. There's definitely going to be some connecting art for the 2 books. Like, like MCG goes all out when they do, like those combo pieces. So, like, I cannot see them changing that philosophy in any way.
No, I'm very
hilarious. It will be hilarious if they did a Holy Trinity, a GM's guide, a player's guide.
I think that might be pushing it. Like, let's be real. Like, I don't think anybody here wants to go and get 3 books for the new, like, whatever it's gonna be. Like, I know me personally will be upset if it's 3 of the same size books, like big hardcovers. Like, that's too much, man. Like, that's too much. That is too much.
Yeah, they're not doing that. Eric asked, my question is, how far into the digital tools are they going to dig? We know for a fact that this backer kit is going to have digital tools. So, matter of fact, we were told specifically as who's going to get it, and we don't know those facts, but we do know that they definitely going to have some digital tools associated with this.
Yes. Manny Analu said something funny. And true, the bestiaries is already out. Like, we already have the 3rd book. Like, it's there already. Like, we have that one. We don't need the 3rd book. And, Zeus Legion. And it would be awesome if they did this. A new logo medallion embedded into the cover. Like, they did with the dust cover of the Numenera. Like, you had the little Numenera medallion in the back of it. That would be awesome. I would love that if they did that again.
If you go back and look at the articles, there is some imaging that I've never seen before associated with Cypher System. That's all I'm gonna say. Go and look at.
I mean, of course, there's gonna be new art, there's gonna be new imagery.
No, new imagery associated with the Cypher System. Because I brought it up and I was told, I don't know if you could say that. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh no.
Go and look.
Yeah, but for you, the audience, put on your magnifying glass and actually look at everything they've put out. Wait. Before I start a fucking, witch hunt, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not Invisible Sun level secrets. You don't gotta dig into source code. You don't gotta like invert images colors to see shit. Like, do not do any of that. Because I imagine we said like put on your mag and everyone's out there like reverse image searching and like doing all this crazy shit.
And to be honest, I would expect new branding anyway. Wouldn't
Oh
you?
boy. Nah, yeah, 100%.
I would expect new branding. I don't think that's going on a limb or speculating. You know, like I would expect new branding
Boy.
because I know that it's going to be 95% compatible, but I'm viewing this now. If what our speculation is correct, and we could be entirely wrong, right? But if what we're saying is correct, this is a new addition to me. Even though we can't traditionally say, I think just those two changes alone makes it feel like it's going to be something entirely worth having separate from the revised Cypher System book.
I think, again, aside from it, with the GMIs only saying it's 2 books, whatever, right? Like, even if it's 2 books, it could still very much be similar to, the old what we're used to. They just added more stuff, made it a book, and then, made the other thing another book, right? I think for what you're claiming, we need to see more. Like, there needs to be more explained. Like, we know that, like, so for example, what we read today, if they had gone in depth on, like, each tier, like, how like, let's say the wizard is going to be built, like, we saw an example wizard, right? Then we could say, hey, this wizard is pretty similar to the first book, it's going to be similar, or maybe it's drastically different. Then we could say, hey, it's drastically. I don't think we've seen information to determine whether it's going to be a new edition or like very much in line.
I hate to use the word edition. That's not the right word, but I don't know. I think that just those 2 changes are drastic enough of a difference that, like a Cypher collector, like, I'm a Cypher collector. I need to have this in my collection, whether regardless or not. Like this has to come in if because I think that the core like resolution mechanics are not changing at all. So I think that the information we're getting, we're just gonna get more information in the same categories that they're currently giving us now. Because I'm in the firm belief that the resolution mechanics are not changing one iota. Like, I think that the target numbers, I'm starting to think that we're not going to get any changes to any of the resolution mechanics.
No, I agree with that. Because, again, changing the resolution mechanic would mean that older characters could not really play in the newer thing, as they've been saying, right? Like, if they change resolution, like, that's going to fuck up a ton of shit. Like, so they definitely can't do that. Like, because, again, it would go against what they've been saying, that you can use the old characters with the new characters.
Yeah, I think Monty just gave us a ton of information on it.
Nah, definitely was a bombshell. It was a pretty nice bombshell, this one. Not bombshell, but, like, a good chunky, meaty amount of speculation to be had with what he said here. I like what Gus just said. This is about creating pathways, not revising. I think that hits the nail on the head. Boom. They are creating pathways with what they're already doing. And again, it's not going to be a new addition because the resolution is going to be the same. They're just creating pathways and making things a little easier to start.
And Zeus brought up a great point too. They want to add all the new optional mechanics like stress too. Yeah, that's what I mean. They're gonna and Gus had mentioned this in a way. I think they're gonna take all those cool optional mechanics from all the game systems that they run, all the setting books, and put them in the core book. So you have them all in one place.
Now, I agree with that too. Because again, they're saying they want the genre stuff, the subgenre stuff, right? They want that to be like just presented to you within one set of things, right? So it would make sense that they include like all those extra things that we see in like Godforsaken or what is it, Stay Alive, all those additional mechanics or whatnot, I could definitely see them adding a whole section. Here's your optional rules, like, and then making that compilation of stuff, because I feel like a good chunk of them are also in the Seesaw, the Cypher System open license. So it would just make sense to include them if they're reprinting a book, right? Just put it all in, if they're not reprinting but making a new one, just put it all in one place, because that's what people want. Like, we hear that a lot. Like, hey, I love these optional rules, but I got to look at like 4 different books to get them all in one place. I hear that quite a bit. So yeah, it would make sense.
I think they definitely doing that. I think that's a no-brainer. But I know you're running out of time out. You got to head out of here.
Yes, I got to go pick up girlfriend.
Let us know on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. Let us know on the YouTube video chat. What do you guys think? I think this was a great discussion. And let us know what your speculation is. What do you think of the changes going to be? Or you think it's going to be really drastic, or it's going to be a nothing burger? Let us know either way. But if you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook game. We have the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG. If Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is not as big as our Discord, but it's still great conversations being had there daily. We still need GMs for CypherCon, so if you get a chance, head on over to the Cypher Unlimited Discord server, sign up to run a game for CypherCon. Our videos are always free, but if you want to help us out financially in any way, give us a little donation on Ko-fi, or go to our Cypher Unlimited merch store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch there as well. Or give us a sub here on Twitch, or go to our YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe there. Or go to Moonbeam Anywhere Door, give us a follow there as well. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep, you hit all the points. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and talking with us about this. I definitely got to check out Tiny Dungeon, and very excited to see what the community speculation is on the latest diary from Monte Cook. Definitely some juicy bits in there. But as Anthony said, we will be on the Discord, and you can hear him. He's already typing. You can go on the Discord and text chat about this right now as soon as we wrap up, because we will be on the text chat. I'm just fucking with you because I can hear it. But either way, guys, thank you so much, and thank you, Anthony. This is a great talk, and thank you for sharing your expertise, or not expertise, but experience with Daggerheart and Tiny Dungeon, and spearheading the speculation train. And the implication train. The implication, guys. But as usual, thank you guys, and from us at the CU, we will see you later. Peace.